I'm Barbara, and this is my friend 2020. Yes, I felt if 2020 was a bird, it would look just like this. I hope you'll join me today and paint it with me. With today's supply list. We have our canvas, our yellow, red, blue, black and white acrylic paint, our cup of water, our brushes, a large flat brush, a medium brush, and a small brush. Optional equipment is a pencil and an extra cup of water. So let's get started. First thing I did was I took my palette and I got some blue, black, and white because that's going to be our background. As always, I try to get an idea of what my placement's going to be. So for this, I'm going to take smallest amount of black. How tiny is that, right? And always pulling from the side. I know you hear me say that all the time, but I do. I'm just making a light gray. Even that's too dark. We'll use it though, don't worry about it. Why? Because we want to make something that's so close to the color of our canvas so that we can see where we're putting our placement. So I'm going to say right around here, I'm going to just make my eye. That's one eye. And then the other eye. Again, this isn't, this is really just to get an idea of where it's going to be. Okay, I'm happy with that. Done. How simple was that? And you all can see it on there. I'll even this out a little bit. Again, I'm doing this sideways, so do forgive me. I'm still waiting to figure a way to do it over my shoulder. So I just want to make it look even for you. Again, I'm not worrying about it so much. I just want to make it look even for you. Okay, done. So now we're going to go ahead and do our background. I'm going to wash off my brush and I'm going to put it on a paper towel to dry. We don't want to leave our brushes in the water if we can help it. A lot of classes I've done, I've had no choice because of a choice of either leaving it in the water or having it go dry and get destroyed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm taking my large brush. Okay, so we have three brushes, the large, the medium, and small. And I'm going to drag some color. I can go right over that gray that I made with my blue. And a small amount of black. Always taking from the sides, top or bottom, never directly in the middle. And that's just where I'm going to start. I'm going to start there with that color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around my eyes. We know that's going to be yellow, so it'll take a little bit to cover that, but we want to make sure it's covered. And I'm just going to keep going around in circles. Again, with the lighter, I had a little bit more white in there. The lighter being right up against the eye and then working our way around to make it darker. If this is your first painting you're doing with us, welcome. If it's not, then thank you. Thank you for coming back and seeing all the goodness that we have here. I know my hand does cross in front, but you do get the gist. So we're just making circles, okay? And we're just going circles all the way around. Put a little bit more color in there. A little more blue. See, I'm just getting a little more blue, a little more black, a little more white, blending it in. Actually, not even 100% blending. As you can see, you can still see a lot of the different colors in there. I'm going around. And yes, I did name this bird If 2020 Was a Bird. It's been an interesting year. And I've never said I'm looking forward to the end of the year. But I'm hoping that 2021 will be a nice, fabulous new start. Lots of hope, you know? A new year, like a new baby, brings hope. Again, just grabbing some more, going around. And my thing is, I want to go around, I want all these different colors. I don't want to have hard lines if I can help it. But if I do, guess what? It's no biggie. Okay. And because this goes on YouTube and it's there for eternity, I'll just let you know what's going on and why I posted this, because you may be looking at it 10 years from now and not know or not remember. This is the year of the COVID. It was something else. So we're doing all these great YouTube videos so people can do stuff at home, stay safe, you know. Plus, I love nothing more than to paint. And when we were home all spring, that's what I did. I painted so that we had some new and exciting things to bring back. Excuse me. And bizarre as it is, last week was 70, today it was 28, you know. So the allergies think, oh, it's time, it's spring. And it's not. So you see how we have all these different colors? And again, I'm doing blue, black, and white. You may be wanting to do, I don't know, green. I'm doing dark because, you know, like I said, 2020. So then when I get to the side, and don't forget to paint your sides. We always paint our sides. So now you can do it where they all matches. I like it kind of, it looks like it has some different levels in there. Oh, I did move that back a little, so sorry. And it's the week before Thanksgiving here. And of course, we're all social distancing, so I won't get to spend time with my grandbabies, but that's okay. Thank goodness for technology, you know? FaceTime has become my lifeline. Let's get some more, come up here. And again, I'm not gonna forget to do my sides, my top and my bottom, because that's what we do. This way when it's hanging on the wall, it just looks finished. It looks like it's a wrapped painting, which is very popular. And I'll get to that, I'll get back to that. Right now I want to get the front covered so we can move along. And I do enjoy doing the paintings that you get to take home and do at home, because you can do them when you feel like it. I mean, there's times I'm up, you know, can't sleep or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I want to paint. Well, no studios are open at 2 o'clock in the morning that I know of, except mine at home. And now I'm kind of giving you that same opportunity that I have when I'm home to paint in the middle of the night or what have you. Let's get to that side now. Again, just forgive my, as we call it, a border house reach when you go across the table. Okay. I'll come up here above it so you can see. So I like it. So there's some interest there. There's some different colors showing through. It's not just a solid black or a solid blue or even a solid gray. But I am getting the coverage because sometimes, and that's kind of a, we call it a scrub, when you really do that, get it paint into that canvas. So now since I can't really get down to the bottom, what am I gonna do? Yeah, pretty much, I'm just gonna flip it over. Now I can flip it all the way over, but I'm just gonna flip it this way because I can still get to it. Getting it in the sides and bottom. And actually I will flip it all the way over once I get this side done. And because I want to get to that part, I'll flip that there. See, just it all blends together because it's all still wet. Now, if you were to come away from it and come back, it will have dried. It probably wouldn't blend as nicely. Not saying you can't do that. You can. You just have to work a little bit harder to make it blend better. You know, really feather it in if that was the case. But this is kind of a quick one. You should be able to get it done at one sitting. I'm just gonna get those sides while I'm here. And I'm gonna show you something. If, say I was doing this and it came across the front, which you just did, I'm just gonna blend it in. Let me get that top, which is really the bottom, so that when we turn it over, that'll be done. Okay, nice. To this side. Water. So again, like I said, you can do this whatever color you want. Your bird could be whatever color you want. Your background could be whatever you want. That's what I love about doing birds or kind of comical, cartoony kind of creatures. Because again, they could be fantasy. They could be, you know, whatever color. And the cool thing about it is birds come in so many beautiful shades. Okay, so there's my piece that's done. So the top is going to blow on that. I'm going to bring it back up. Actually, I'm going to leave it this way because I'm going to do the top. I haven't done that as of yet. And knowing that's done, it's one less thing I have to worry about later trying to catch up with. Nice. Now I hope you share your love of art with your kids. I hope you share your love of art with your parents, because that's what's meant to be. Art is meant to be shared. Such a gift. Okay, so there we go. Tops, backs, all of that's done. A few little spots down here. And again, just by using that circular stroke, and you'll hear me say in other things, you know, we want to do a horizon, we want to do water, we want to do straight across. So this is just all different ways to achieve that, an idea of the way the strokes are going. So right now I'm going to put my large brush in the water, and I'm going to let that set in. I want to let this dry before we move forward. So I actually have a heat gun, okay? This is just because I use it for some other things. I happen to have it. You can use a blow dryer, a hair dryer, same way, okay? So here we go. Let me see. Okay, dry, yep. See, so you see how I'm checking to see if something is dry? I put my hand, I don't swipe, because if it wasn't dry, then it would just drag the paint. So I just pat and tap. The bottom's a little bit wet. However, I'm going to be focusing on this section right now, so I'm not too concerned about that. Oops, sorry about that. As well as my sides are wet. Again, not touching it. So I just want to look about where I'm going to be putting my yellow paint, and that's what I'm concerned about. So I knew this was dry, that's why I could swipe. Okay, so I'm going to put this down, put down my little heat gun. I'm going to grab my palette, and I'm going to pick up some yellow paint. Now I use these handy dandy popsicle sticks, craft sticks, whatever you want to call it, to get my paint out of my little tubs. So I never want to put a different color in there. And luckily they have 2 different sides, so I get to use, both sides. Okay, so I'm gonna put this down for now. Put back my paint back down and get some on here. And there's a lot of yellow in our little bird there. And I think I may pick up a little bit of red just for later. Not tons, I'll show you. Not a lot. And you see, I put everything next to each other. I don't put anything on top of each other. Because again, look, I still have white, black, and blue that has not been muddled. So that's kind of why I do that. I like to tell you why I do stuff. I think that's important. So I'm gonna take my medium size brush, and you never hear me say use your filbert, use your number 6, use your flat, use your 3/4, because I don't want you to get bogged down in that. Right now, I just want you to understand small, medium, large. In the future, we'll get to that point where we can, discuss different kinds of brushes and what they do. I'll move that back into the middle for you. So right now, I'm gonna go in here and I'm going to take some of my white, my brush. It was a little stiff, so I just put it in the water, took off the excess water, okay? So I took a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow. And I'm just blending that in, okay? And what I'm going to do is from my nose and my eyes, I'm just gonna do this little flick movement, okay? And that's really all we're gonna be doing, this entire bird. But you see the first coat I'm doing has some white in it to try to neutralize the dark color in the back. And I'm gonna make sure my eyes come past kind of my feathers. So that came down a little bit low. I'm gonna stop it around there. And again, when I put my eyes in here, they're gonna meet up and go over. So again, just kind of bringing it around, bringing it up. See the difference in the color when I'm covering white or covering another color? It's quite vast. And that's why we go with the white first. And again, always grabbing the white from the outside. Always grabbing any color from the outside. Okay, so grab a little of this and bring it over here. Okay, we're gonna keep going. Now it's gonna come across. And even though I could paint the whole thing and then come back, I want to do it where we're staying with that feather feel, okay? And this is just our first layer. You know, we do all our paintings in layers. So yeah, I do call this bird 2020. However, if you've painted with me before, you know that if I give you something to paint that has a face, you need to give it a name and a backstory. So like, where does your bird come from? What's your bird's name? What do you, does it have a family? Is it a lone chick or is it part of a family of many? And again, we're just doing these long type of strokes now. Still with the white. The strokes are getting a little longer now. The whole idea is to always end up with that, you know, that kind of feathery outline. So even if this was solid, you still want to come up and have that feathery look. And you can decide how high it comes, how low it is, whatever. I want to have long spindly legs, so probably the top is going to be higher than the bottom. I'm going to bring it out. I'm trying to just do it so that my arm doesn't impede you seeing the strokes. And Christmas is coming, so maybe I'll get that overhead camera I'm hoping for. Maybe I'll just buy it for myself. Birthday's coming, maybe I'll buy that for myself, you know. A nice glass palette. I would love one of those. Not terribly expensive, but you know, gotta watch your pennies sometimes. Open here. Just filling that in. And I always will paint where I know the other piece is going to come over it a little bit, okay? So I know when I paint my eye, it's going to lap over so that we have a seamless transition from color to color. You think it's starting to look like a bird? I hope so. And we come up again. And again, lots of white on this layer. And see the way we have these uneven edges? That's why we do the background first. Because you would never be able to get your paint in there if you did it any other way. Right now it looks like a helot. I think that's what it was called in a movie with Rod Taylor about, what was that? I'm gonna try to remember it. Time Machine. It was H.G. Wells. Not 100% sure, but I'll check on that. Okay, so you see it's closer on the inside. I'm not gonna go so far on that one. Now what I'm doing is I'm letting this first coat kind of dry as I go around, because if I put paint on top of paint, it's really, you're taking off more than you're actually putting on, okay? So I'm still gonna go with the white because I still see so much dark in there. So I'm gonna put that white over my yellow that I had already mixed. Grab a little bit more yellow and come in here. I blend it slightly. I don't blend it a lot. So you still have some white coming through. But again, now I'm going over the spots that I missed. And I could use my large brush, but I really wanna keep these strokes consistent. Even though I could do the large brush and then just do more strokes over it, which I would, but I'm in no rush. If you're in a rush, never be in a rush when you paint. It makes it sad. You should enjoy this. It should be relaxing. Grab a beverage and enjoy. I have a cup of tea laying around here somewhere. I'm always worried of putting my tea too close to the paint water, because you know, Murphy's Law, it'll happen. My brush will end up in there. Okay, again, a lot more white. I'm putting a lot more white here at the edge. Okay. I moved the camera over in this direction because my shoulder was starting to hurt. And I'm not sure if it was the best choice, because now I feel like I'm painting upside down. My arm is going this way, but that's all right. Lots more white. Coming at that edge right there. We want to get rid of that harsh line. And we're getting there actually, which is kind of nice. I could use straight up white, but then if we miss some color over it, it's going to show. We don't want to see that. Sometimes your brush gets too full and it moves up. Pull it back down. Again, coming up and over. See how we're missing that? See, on this side, I'm still working on it. On this side, it's pretty much gone. So, kind of happy about that personally. I'm gonna come over here, do some more. And again, because there's gonna be yellow next to the eye, it'll be very easy to cover with the white. I'm not going to say it's not going to take a couple of coats, and it will, but it's going to be easier than covering this black or dark blue or the gray or whatever color we got going on here. See how it's pretty much covered now? So I'm going to leave that alone. Take some more white, because I like the white and the yellow. It's kind of pretty. You know, that different layer of interest. And I'm not mixing the whole thing. I'm still going to come up here. And you notice these are just long strokes and I'm stopping. It's almost like I'm making it leave the canvas. Look at that. And again, by dragging your brush off, it gives you that nice finished edge. Just doing this. Now you can also do this in a textured manner, impasto. You can use something called thick acrylic. If you know me, I'm cheap. I'm not buying thick acrylic. I'm just going to take some acrylic and I'm going to mix a little flour into it. Blend it with, say, a palette knife. That's what I'm going to do. And that gives you thick acrylic. And again, then putting it on with a palette knife is really interesting too. I try to do things that I know that you have at home, your brushes, your paint. I will probably go into palette knives eventually when we think we're ready, and that people may have them at home at that point. I'll give you plenty of time to get one by announcing when we're going to do it. Okay. Okay. Now I know you're looking straight ahead. I'm looking at it sideways. I'm just going to turn it for a second. Yep, I'm okay. Because very often I'll do things and they're wonky because I don't have a straightforward view of it. I have a sideways. So we're going to pull that out there. Then if you're happy, I always sing and you know it. I'm just going to come up here, finish. I like the roundness of them. I do like, let me say that I want the top to be a little bit higher than the bottom. I'm just going to drag it up. Drag it out. I can kind of tell they're not dead center. The eyes are a little bit off, which is fine. You know, maybe this bird didn't know it was going to get ready for a portrait. It's not standing directly in the center of the canvas. That's fine. Okay, so I'm happy with my shape, pretty much. I know over here it seems to be moving out a little bit, and I'll just adjust that. It doesn't have to be a perfect ball. It's a bird. So I'm gonna let this dry up a little bit. You see we have these colors up in here. I'll probably do a little bit more white up in there to cover that dark color. See, because it's coming through. I definitely wanted to get it away from the eyes, right? Because that was important. But also up in here, it's gonna be a little, I'm gonna get rid of that as well. Now, you guys are watching me. If at any point you see that I'm doing the same thing over and over, because it does take a while to get it the way you want it, by all means, you can pause, you can fast forward, and then, you know, you'll see me moving along, then you stop it and come back. Sometimes you're literally watching paint dry, which is, you know, not fun. Which is why I try to use the heat gun to expedite the drying time. I don't like to break away if I can avoid it, because I want you to see the whole process. I don't want you to wonder, oh, how'd that happen? Oh, she must have done that when she wasn't on camera. We don't do that, okay? So again, getting some of that down there. Now again, if you were doing a lighter background, it wouldn't take this long. But again, this is my 2020 bird, so it needed to be on a dark background. I felt it. So what I'm gonna do is take my heat gun, and again, Almost looks like a sun. And again, I'm not trying to heat the whole thing. I just want it to dry enough so that when I put the next layer on, it'll actually take. So again, this time, maybe I'm just gonna go some straight yellow. What do you think? Yep. See, it's giving you a different effect now because that white was there. And I know it's like, oh, but it's disappearing. Yeah, it's kind of blending in, you're right. But that's okay. We're gonna have another layer. Lots of layers, guys. And when you're finished with your layers, you'll know. You may do less than I, you may do more. Whose choice is it? It's yours, it's your painting. Now, for those of you who have done painting with me before, I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm giving you an idea to do something like this. We're not looking to have a carbon copy of what I do, not at all. We want it to be your version of a bird. You want to copy it exact, by all means, enjoy. But I do like when people put their own spin on things. Again, that's just me. There's a little white in there. A little bit more dark yellow. Dark yellow, that's kind of an oxymoron. I thought sitting on this side, it'd be less crossover of my arm, but I guess not. But I can kind of bring it down here. See, now I'm doing it longer. Almost like a flower. I hope you find painting relaxing. I had a colonel in here once doing a class with it was a couples class. And he and his wife, they were painting like a Mr. and Mrs. Claus type thing. And oh, I thought he broke out in a sweat. I was like, it's okay. I found out later that he was actually an engineer. So very type A, the need to make everything exact and even. I thought he was gonna pull out a ruler to get the pants the right length for Santa. It was quite funny. Haven't seen him since then, but he does send his children, which is nice. Okay, so we're coming along. I'm gonna come back up in here, remember? I don't wanna leave this out. Even though I'm gonna put a little beak there in a little bit, but I want it to be nice and covered. So that's kind of the layer of our guy here right now. I'm gonna let that dry up a little bit, okay? Coming to the ends. And I do have another one that I made, just like this. Maybe I'll show it to you when I'm finished if I can get it. So now I'm gonna let this dry. Rather than you watch me heat it up, I promise not to put my brush back to the canvas until you come back, okay? Well, I'm going to continue on more of the strokes for the feathers. Again, I'm still using a little bit of white, okay? And a little bit of my yellow. And you see I'm not blending it completely, but I'm still coming up. Because now remember we did that darker yellow earlier, so that's kind of like has a little bit of contrast. And again, you're done with yours when you're done, whenever you decide. I'm not going to say, well, you do, 600 strokes and then you're finished. It's not that kind of painting. But you see how it's coming over on the lighter side? It's really standing out and showing up. Because we had that white down there first, or that super light yellow was down there. I love that. I'm just going to keep going until I feel that it's got enough coverage, enough strokes. And you see some are longer, some are shorter. But as you know, I come off. I just push it and then I come off. I push the paint and I come off. Okay, so think of it like this. Because that just, gives us those nice strokes down there. The edge ones, where it's like hair. And again, it's just another layer of color up against the initial ones that we put on there. So it really does look fuzzy. And you can draw it back, you can draw it out, whichever makes you happy. Okay, so I'm kind of happy right now. So I'm going to leave that a little bit. I'm going to take, ready? I'm putting just the very tip in the red. Did it even get on there? Nope, didn't get on there. Again, swoop a little bit right there. Just that tiny, tiny bit. Oh my goodness, it's barely visible. I'm gonna add some yellow to that. Okay, because I want a little bit deeper yellow, not so much an orange. And I'll show you. See? Another layer of interest. And grab the rest of that. And I'll make some more. And you could tell. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make too much and I'm gonna show you how to fix it. So I put all this red over here, right? Like that. And then I put some yellow over here. And that is way too orangey. I didn't want anything that dark. So what I do, instead of adding more to that, I pull that over here and then add yellow to that little bit, because now it definitely has more yellow. See? And I can just keep adding to that. Still it's still too dark. Bring it over here until you get the right color that you're happy with. Okay? But see, it's kind of stark in comparison. But again, just another layer of interest. Now, if too much comes on here, like it was stuck in your brush, just bring some yellow over it. See? So you still maintain the difference, the variation of color, but it's not so in your face. And again, I like doing this. I just like having all these different layers. Maybe some up here. Okay. It almost looks like a sunflower. Okay, I'm happy. You happy? I'm happy. Okay, so that's that. What I'm going to do now, wash out my brush like always, right? That's a plus. And we're going to do a little bit of work on the eyes. So in doing that, I want to make sure that my feathers by the eyes are going to be dry. I'll do that with this. Okay, so there, and I see on the camera, it looks a lot more blocky. So when we get closer to the end, I'm gonna come up really nice and close and show you. I'm sure I'm gonna go in there a few more times and change it up. So right now, what I'm gonna do is, again, we're gonna check. Perfect. Take my medium brush. I like my medium brush, I gotta tell you. So I'm gonna take my white. I'm gonna come in here. I'm just gonna go around. And you see it's gonna go over my yellow. I'm gonna fill that in. Just on the edges right now. Don't need to get into the center yet. So again, I do it the same way we do the other circles. I like having that kind of thing where it shows a circle. Coming up here. And then just filling that in as well. People say, well, you know, why are you putting white paint on a white canvas? It's already white. Because I like the textures to stay the same all the way through. Okay. Now you see how this is a little bit of gray? Remember we did gray? Did that for a reason. The same way we did the black, I'm sorry, same way we did the red with the yellow. This time I'm going to use the wrong side of my brush because I want that little amount of black. Put that there. That's it. I don't want anything more than that. And I'm going to take some white, a fair amount, and mix that in. Way too dark. And you saw how tiny amount, right? So move it over here. Add a little bit more white from the side as always, right? I don't know if you see me. And that's perfect. And I'm gonna come around here. Because I want the outside to have that little grayish tinge. Okay. The same way we did the background. We want that circular. Now, there we go. Okay? So it kind of looks like a clamshell. But I want it up and over the yellow and back down. Okay? I'm going to do the other one. Same thing. Up and over and back down and around. And you see just that slightest little bit of gray. And again, we're going around and around and around. That slightest bit of gray gives it a little bit more interest. And again, I have to just turn it this for a second. Yep, okay. Again, this guy could be a little bit longer here. Okay, now if I wanted to, I can grab some straight up white and come in the middle and just blend it in. There we go. I'm just trying to even it out. You know, it's an eye. Usually one, you do one to one, you should do it to the other. Okay. Again, just even that out. Remember what I said? That's why we go right up against it. Okay, so now we have our eyes there. We're going to come back and let that dry up a little bit before we do our pupils. Okay, so I'm going to wash out my brush, right? And now I think we're going to do our beak. Okay. And of course our beak is orange. And you can make it as orange as you want or more red as you want. So again, taking some of my yellow. And remember we mixed a little bit of that earlier. I'm going to put that in there. I don't need tons of it. And some red. I like that color. And I am going to make sure that my lower portion of my eye is dry. Up here, let me see. You know, it's pretty dry, but you know, if I have it, why shouldn't I use it? 2 seconds. Done. Go back and check it again. Perfect. Okay, so since my medium-sized brush is a nice stiff type brush, a little bit more red to that, only because not so much I wanted to change the color, but I needed to make a little bit more paint. See how, there we go, pulling from the side once again. Pull it over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the bottom of, believe it or not, I'm doing the bottom of my beak first, okay? Just get some more paint. Get that nice fun color back. Again, don't want it too red. I want it to really be more orangey. And again, it's one of those things, if you don't mix it completely, that's okay. So I'll show you what I mean by doing the bottom of my beak first. From this eye, I'm going to come out and come down. Then from this eye, I'm going to come out and meet up. Okay? So that's going to show me what my beak is going to look like. However, I am going to bring it up there. So I think because of that, again, our first layer, I am going to use my smaller brush to get up further. But right now, my first layer, I'm doing with this lighter, with this little bigger brush. Let me just put that in the water, wash it out. And I like to use at least 2 cups of water when I have the ability. Reason being, I like to do my, wash out my brush if it's a lighter color in a lighter water, and a darker brush, darker paint in another one, so they don't get them muddied, okay? So again, got my tiny brush. I'm gonna grab this guy here, coming up between the eyes, and creating that line, going over the actual eye. This way it assures of having a seamless transition. Okay? And that's my nose, my beak. I shouldn't call it a nose. Okay? Again, I'm gonna let that dry up a little bit before I put my next layer on it. If you wanted to make it a little deeper, you can go back and just take some plain red and come in here. Maybe just do the bottom half and then blend it into the rest. It gives it some depth. Then when we dry it, it'll be underneath there. We're going to put another layer on it. So that, the same way we put the dark on, when we put the light on the dark, you saw the difference? That's what this little bit of red down here is going to accomplish. Give us almost like a shadow, but without using a black or a brown or a darker color. Just by, again, bringing it through and letting it blend in. And again, on the camera, it does look a lot more blotchy, but it's not going to be. So again, to expedite it in the essence of time, okay, I'm gonna come back, pick up my orange, load it up, and bring it back in. So you see how I've gone over that red, but it's just the slightest bit darker because we did that. And again, I'm just pulling it that way for now. And then I'm going to come down and swipe it like that. Okay. Now, of course, it is done when you say it's done. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet. And that's the great thing about this. You can decide when you decide. I've actually had paintings hanging on the wall that I took down after a couple of months and said, nope, I need to fix it and do something else. Okay. So I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna wash out my brush. And I'm going to, while everything up here is drying, I'm gonna make our legs, okay? Bring that up there. And how am I gonna make our legs? They're very, very simple. We're making a brown. And what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take some of this orange over here, since I've used it basically for everything I'm needing, that being yellow and red, right? Then I'm gonna come into my blue and take some blue and mix it in. Because ordinarily to get brown, I mix yellow, blue, and red. So now there was a lot of yellow in that. So it looks kind of green. So I'm gonna come back and add a little bit more red. Okay. And because it's going on such a dark background, I'm gonna add the smallest bit of white. And I have this white over here from the gray and white. I'm just gonna add that. And again, like I said, that was just to brighten it up a little bit. Okay. So our guy here's got some pretty spindly legs. And it's just, I'm gonna make sure this is dry because I'm gonna rest my wrist on it. Say rest my wrist on it a few times, okay? And I'm just gonna come from here. And as I lay down my brush, notice I'm flattening it. Why? Because then it gives me a wider profile. I have to put down my plate for a second, excuse me. Over here. Because I want to make sure that it's even. And bring this up to here. Load up my brush again, some paint. Okay, and drag it down. I left a lot of paint up there. Okay, that's one leg, and I'm going to turn it by myself. Thank you. I know it's hard to do that, but I have to check it. And he's gonna have another leg right here, coming out of there. Again, by laying down your brush, it widens out. And that's with any size brush that you're using. Okay. Just enough. Okay, and again, I have to check it. Yep. So it's a little bit uneven, which is okay, but I do want to just even up a little bit in the width up here. So I'm just going to come on here and see my brush is really loaded up. And again, I'm just laying it down. And that's it until we add a little fun to it in a minute. So those are our legs. And I'm just gonna point, make a little point at the top. So it looks like it's hiding from underneath a feather. See, so by adding that little point, it's not blocked. It's not just a flat top. I'm just gonna add a little bit of a point, see? Now it makes it think that it's coming out of underneath the feathers. So that makes me happy. Hope painting makes you happy. It does me. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sit there for a bit. I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna grab back my palette. Now something I noticed when I was doing my beak was that right underneath it was a very orangey kind of feather that I had done earlier, and it kind of looks like it ran. I don't want that, so I'm just going to go in, take a little bit of yellow, and get rid of it. That's how simple that was. I just thought it looked a little bit like the paint got in the wrong spot, which, trust me, has happened. And now that my oranges are a little bit drier, I can go over it with a little bit of yellow if I choose it not to be so harsh. Like I said, this is one of those things you'll decide when you feel that it's 100% the way it should be. Okay, so we have that part done there. I think maybe one more coat on the nose. You see it's dry? Yeah, see how quick it dries? And the reason I let it dry is because I don't want to be just pushing around the same paint. I want to be adding paint. Okay, so I got that on there. I'm washing out my tiny brush. We're getting close, guys. We're almost done. Okay, so like we did earlier, you know, remember we put our legs on here and they're almost dry. Again, I'm gonna just pop in here and do this. Okay, and I'm gonna bring it up here so that you can see it. At least let you see the beginning of it. So again, that brown that we had made, remember I had very little of it left. So I'm gonna make a little bit more. Just a slight, I mean, we barely even need that much more, but I'm gonna do it. Had I made enough earlier, I wouldn't have to do this, but I didn't. So, such is life, as we say. That's perfect, but I want to make sure I have enough. Make get the right color, a little bit of blue. And you know, just sit down one day and take different amounts of color to see what gives you what you want, you know, like what shades you like. And it's like a formula, just like science. Yeah, it's science, and science is real. That's just to offset that blue. Okay, so now I have plenty there, but I don't want the same color that my legs are. I wanted a little bit. I just grab this from the outside. As you see, I'm going around trying to find the up. There's some outside that works, and I'm blending it in. Maybe too much white, so I'm put it up there and blend and see if I need to go back and get some. Okay, so it's similar to the color that our legs already are. However, it's a little bit lighter. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a look down there. Yep, just I added a little bit of water on my brush, just enough to make it like an ink. If you add too much, it will run. You don't want it to run. So I dip my water in the brush and I shake it off really, really well. And then I put it in my paint. And if you want a sharp brush, right? What you do is when it's in your paint, you put it in your paint and then you twist it up against. You see you get a nice sharp tip. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come across. And notice I'm working on this leg first before this one, because this way if my hand moves into it, I'm not going to mess it up. So if you do this first, you're working this way. And I'm just going to make a little line going across. Every little bit of the way. Notice I'm not measuring. You don't need to measure it, guys. If you want to give the effect that it is rounding, then you go to the corner and you make a little smile. Okay, a little smile. It'll give you a more rounded look. Make it look like his legs are round. And you see, you can always go back and fix it. Okay, and you see how it's just the slightest bit different, making the rounded legs. Pick up some more. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the other leg, again starting up here. And oops, sorry about that. You'll get the feel for the amount of space between. And if it's not even, that's okay. Okay, that's how simple that was, guys. Now, what are we going to do? It's time to put our pupils in. And it's so funny because right now it looks like a Daruma mask. I think it's D-U-R-M-A. In Japan, what you do is before New Year's is you create a mask and you leave the eyes empty from pupils. And what you do is you make a wish or something you hope to accomplish over the next year, and you draw in one pupil. When you're done, and then you have achieved what you wanted to do, or your wish came true, or however you want to look at it, that's when you put the second pupil in. I think that's kind of cool. I love that idea. So right now I'm taking my large brush, and you'll see, let's see if I do this way. I'm using, there we go, the side without the bristle. And I'm going to dip it in my black paint, and I'm going to just push it around a little bit. So I get a lot of paint on there. We want to really load it up, okay? And then what I'm gonna do, again, going for the further, then coming closer, I'm gonna drop his little pupil there, okay? And over here, I'm gonna do the same thing, dropping it down. Dropping it there. Looks a little bit bigger. Maybe I'll make this one a little smaller. You can make it big or small you'd like, it doesn't really matter. But the reason I use this side is because I know I'm gonna get a round shape to start with. Also, there's no hairs to go stray when I'm doing that, okay? So that's why I do that. Now, from there, we're coming back up into here. We should be dry up there. I'm going to take my weed brush again, okay? And I'm gonna just do some flecks here and there, you know? Now notice I'm not doing them up and down. I'm going in that shape of like the sun. So up, 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 out, like that, okay? No, they're just haphazard. They're not planned. They're not even. We don't want to create a pattern. We want them to really look random. And again, the same way we did our feathers, we're just going to lay it down and flick it out. I'm not always starting from the very center. Start from the middle. But you want to have that direction going for you. Now, what I wanted to do is I'm taking almost a dry brush. I want it to look like maybe they're shooting off. See, just little bits. And again, a dry brush, barely on there kind of. But I don't want it to look like a pattern, so I have to pull myself away and come to another section. Okay. You can do as many or as few as you want. I like them to start in the feather and pull out to the outside. Looks a little frazzled now, doesn't he? I don't like them so long. That's a little long for me. And then some you can do almost like a dot, see? Super tiny. I'll show you, I have that there. I'm not fussy for that. And here it's okay if it varies in the direction, because it almost looks like he's shaking off some of the feathers. And again, that'll break it up. That'll break up the regimented feel of it. Which I like. Okay. What do you think? Yeah, me too. Okay, It's okay if it's not even. The whole idea is that it looks like it's shaken up. Okay. Now, I kind of like the way the outside hair is going. I may even just put some like dots. Just looks like small little feathers. I know I keep calling it hair. Okay, so on here, I'm pretty happy. There was some on the, that I put on the actual feathers. Like this one's very long. So how would I fix that? Yep, go back and grab some yellow. See? That'll take away anything you didn't like or anything you felt was too harsh. Because first of all, also it's still wet. So that's good. Okay. And again, this is where now we're in cleanup zone. Just finishing it up. So we're not done yet. I know it looks like we are, but we're not. And I'll tell you why. Because we need now to have our highlights. So our black is still wet. So what am I gonna do? Yes, 2 seconds with the heat gun. And we don't want to put it right on top of it because basically acrylic is kind of like a liquid plastic, and this would just make it bubble and melt, and we don't want that. So again, just took a few seconds to do that. But what we're going to do is our source of light is coming today from the right side. It's coming this way. So when we put our light source in, we're going to make sure that all of our highlights are coming from one side. Okay? And what we're going to do is, again, I'm going to take my very tiny brush. I'm going to dip it in here, grab some white. Just, you know, my brush is nice and loaded up. And I'm barely going to touch the canvas, okay? I'm going right on my brown leg. The reason I'm not going onto the background is because I won't be able to match that up again. If I mess up, if I goof, I'm not gonna be able to match that. But if I go on the leg, I can always fix that. So coming down, again, just a whisper, barely touching. And if I find I am touching, there we go. I'll bring it up here so you can see it. There. Okay. I'll come over here and do the same thing again. Again, just barely touching it. If you feel it's too bright, remember that leg color you mixed? You can grab a little bit of that, add a little bit of white to it, right? And this is just, and I'll do it over both legs so you can see the difference, okay? So this is still a highlight, but it's not as bright, and I'll go over in case you didn't want it that harsh of a highlight. I like to show you different options. Okay, so this is the more pure white, and this is the one mixed into the initial brown that we had when we did the little lines on the leg. Okay, so since I did that to there, I'll definitely do it to here as well. I want up. Again, you're just whispering, barely touching the canvas. Okay? Okay. All right, so right. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, because I have a little bit of brown, I'm taking it off, I'm dipping my brush in the water. We're going to give him a little bit of a swoosh of a highlight on his beak. And it's just going to be where the curve is. That's what's going to pick it up. So I'm going to come down here. I keep moving that canvas. And it's just going to match the curve, okay? I'm going to end off in a very, like that, because it's on a curve, thicker here, thinner there. Up here, maybe a little wider. So there's that. If you're happy, you can leave it. If you want it brighter, by all means, let it dry, then put another layer over it. Our eyes, okay? Once we put our eyes in, guys, we're done. So let me just, again, using now my small brush, the wrong side. I'll put it here so you can see the difference. The wrong side. I shouldn't say the wrong side, the side without the bristles. And I'm just going to, again, make sure this is dry over here, because I'm going to use my wrist is going to lay there for leverage. And I'm just going to do a dot there. See, tiny, tiny dot. And another one here. That's a little bit smaller. Okay, that I think is a little bit wider. Okay, guys, I think we're done. Well, I hope you enjoyed painting 2020 with me today, and hoping that 2021 has a brighter spot in our calendar. Till I see you again, be blessed, be safe, and remember, art is everything.